What's up? I'm going to talk about Sveltekit in this video and how you can set it up with TypeScript and how to use the endpoints. Sveltekit seems to be a pretty cool framework that I started to try out, and Svelte is pretty cool in itself, so I think this is going to be a useful video. There's actually a lot more to it with Svelte, so I'm not going to show you everything, but I'm going to show you how to set Sveltekit up to use TypeScript, and I'm going to show you how cool endpoints can be with Sveltekit, and we're also going to hit an API that's called the cocktail API or something like that. So we're going to grab random drinks and show the ingredients and stuff for them. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. So as always, just get started. All right, so this is the application that we're building, and it's a cool little drink application. Or if we click this button here, you get a random drink, and it's from the cocktail DB API. I think it's called something like that. Yeah, the cocktaildb.com. So it's one endpoint that I'm using, and that's the one that's generating this random drink. So this is the app that we're going to build. So let's get started. I'm going to start off in the console. First, I'm going to break this application here and go back here and start a new project. And with Sveltekit, you start a new project by typing in npm init, and then we have svelte at next. We're going to grab the newest version of Sveltekit. So svelte at next, and then we can have the name of the application, and we're going to call it svelte-cocktail. And we click enter. Not click, we press enter. And then it gives some choices here for us. And we're going to have a skeleton project. We're going to use TypeScript, so change that one to yes. Just going to adjust this microphone. It's in the way. Add ESLint for code linting. Yes, we want ESLint. And we want to add prettier for code formatting. So we select yes. And then it will set this stuff up for us. So if we list this one, you can see that we have the svelte-cocktail. So cd svelte-cocktail. I clear the console. And then we run npm install to install all the dependencies. All right, so there it is. And then we can type npm run dev to start up the environment. And here we have the welcome message and the application. So we don't really have anything now. It's just some text here. And that's fine. And we're also going to have the console open like this. And you can see that we have this warning here, but this is okay. It's actually not in production. It's something with Sveltekit. They have to adjust some stuff. So don't worry about this warning here. No worries at all. All right. So we know that our application is working. So I'm going to open up the code editor and also type in npm run dev again. So we have the application running. So we can check out the package JSON. And you can see that it has installed all the dependencies for us here. So nothing really more to do here. It's installed TypeScript, and we have the tsconfig here. We have the Svelte config. Everything is set up for us. The one thing I noticed in Visual Studio Code is that I had to go into preferences and settings and search for Svelte. So I have this plugin, Svelte for VS Code. That's the newest one that you should use. I had another one before. I don't really remember the name, but this is the one that you should use, Svelte for VS Code. So I have this installed. It will give us IntelliSense and everything that we need for developing with Svelte. So I have these settings here. I search for Svelte. So I had to enable this plugin here, as you can see here. Otherwise, it won't work. It won't give us any IntelliSense and autocomplete and stuff like that. So make sure to actually activate this. I don't know why it isn't activated by default, but hey, who knows? Activate that and we're good to go. So we're going to create some new stuff inside the source and the routes. So inside routes, we only have the index.svelte right now. And this thing here has got to go. So first we have the regular script tag in Svelte. This is how you do it in Svelte when you're creating props and state and stuff. You have a regular JavaScript script tag. And the lang is going to be set to TypeScript. Otherwise, this won't work. So it's very important to set that up. And then I'm going to create a prop. And when you create a prop in Svelte, you export a let. And I'm going to call it drink prop. And I don't really have a type for this right now. So I'm going to create the types later. And then we want a state also. So let drink state. So creating a state in Svelte is really easy. You just create a variable like this. And this one is going to be set to the drink prop initially. And I'm going to explain this later also, because the drink prop is going to get all the data that we fetch server side and send into this component. So we populate this state with that data initially. Then we're also going to have a handle on click, a click handler. It's going to be async like this. And for now, we can just console log out click, do some auto formatting, and it seems to be working. Then we're going to have a div with a class of wrapper. Then we want a button. In Svelte, you type in on, colon, and click equal. And then we have our handle on click like this. And this button is going to say get new drink. All right. So that's the button. Then we have the title, h2. And here we're going to put the drink name later when we get that data. So drink name. Then we have an img tag. It's going to have a class of drink-thumb. And for now, the source, we just have a /. We're going to fill this out with the correct source later. And we have an alt of drink thumb like that. And we can close it. So that's the image. Then we're going to have a p tag with the kind of instructions. So I type in instructions for now. And then we're going to loop through all the ingredients in the drink. So for now, I just create a p tag with ingredients like that. And then we create some small styling for this also. So we have our style tag dot wrapper. This is regular CSS. So display as a flex. Flex direction is going to be column. We align the items to center. And we set the font family to there. This one should, of course, have a colon. So that's the wrapper class. Then we have the drink-thumb. I'm going to set the width on this one to 300 pixels. And the border radius is going to be 1 rem. And then we have the p tag. It's going to be a max width of 500 pixels. I don't want this to be too long in width. And text align is going to be center. Not a very pretty app, this one, but hey, it's not about styling in this tutorial. And then we have the ingredients that we're going to create later. Ingredient. And we set the margin to 2 pixels and 0 on that one. And you can see here that the IntelliSense is working. It's telling us that we're not using this class now, so we're going to fix that later. So save this file, go back to the application, and you can see that we have something scaffold out here at least, and that's great. So go back to the code, and we're going to talk about Svelte Endpoints. Svelte Endpoints is, you can say that you have your server-side code inside of these ones. You can, for example, make API calls and stuff like that. And instead of doing it in the client, as in this script tag here, for example, if we call an endpoint here and we have an API key, that API key will get exposed in the client this is client code. But if we do that in an endpoint instead, we will hide that API key, so it won't be visible in the browser. So that's one benefit of doing that. And also our component will have the data when it mounts. And that's why we're going to send in that data to this prop and populate our state. So we're already going to have that data when we initialize our state. So that's why we can do it like this here. We set this one to the drink prop. So I'm going to show you that when we created these routes and stuff. So what we're going to do here is that we're also going to create a script tag that we're going to use later. So we have a script tag. And we're going to mark this script tag with context module. And this will make sure that this one will get run on the server and on the client also. So yeah, we could do some server-side stuff here, but it will also expose, for example, API keys and stuff to the client if we do it here. But we could actually do it here also. And we're going to set the language to TypeScript. So we have this script tag saved here now for later. And now we're going to create what's called a Sveltekit endpoint. So we have this index.svelte file. We're going to create a new file in the routes folder. And we're going to call it index.json.ts. Very important. This one will create an endpoint. You can fetch it like a regular endpoint when we create it like this, .json. If we just name it .ts, it will kind of override this component here, and it will show this like an API endpoint route instead. But if we call it index.json.ts, we can hit this endpoint from our application here in this component. So we can fetch it with the fetch that, as we're going to do the built-in fetch. But you could use Axios or anything that you use when you fetch data from a REST endpoint. All right, so we have the index.json file. So inside of this one, we're going to fetch some data from the Cocktail DB. We're going to create our own types. We don't have the types for this endpoint. And I'm actually going to use this endpoint also to transform the data, because as you're going to see here, this data actually kind of sucks. It's not that good to work with, to be honest. So I'm going to start by export an async function that is called get. So if you want to post something, you can create an async function and export it. That's called post. In our case, we're only going to use get because we're only fetching data. And this one is going to have the type of a promise, because it is a promise. It is a generic. And we're going to return an object with a body. And for now, we set it to any. We're going to create this type later. But this is how you type your promise. And now it complains because we don't really return a promise right now. So I'm first going to create a const that's called result. And this const, I'm going to wait. I have parentheses, and then I'm going to wait again, because I wait first the fetch itself, and then I'm going to wait it when I convert it to JSON. So first I await the fetch. And this endpoint is going to be https://www thecocktaildb.com/api/json/v1/1/random.php. That's the whole endpoint for this random drink that we're going to get. And then I have .json, so that's why I have two awaits. When converting to JSON, that's also async. All right, so we're going to return an object. We have the body, and for now we just put the result in the body like that, and now it won't complain anymore. And we're going to console log out the result. I'm going to show you how this data structure looks like. So this is everything we do for now in this endpoint. So if we go back to the index.svelte, inside the script that's marked with context module, we can fetch from this endpoint. And in this one, we export also an async function that's called load. It has to be called load. And this one will provide us with a fetch function that's actually the regular fetch function that we have provided in JavaScript. And I'm going to create a const drink. The type is going to be any for now because I haven't created that type. I'm soon going to create it, so just hang on. And then we wait, and we wait again from fetch. And we use the fetch. And the fetch is going to grab this data from the index.json that we just created. And then we convert it just like before to JSON. And for now, we can console log out the drink like this. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm fetching data, but I do it from my own created endpoint here. So this is backend stuff. And I'm grabbing it here from my frontend stuff. And this one will be run both on the server before the component mounts, and it will also be run in the client. So go back to the application. Yeah, it actually works on the server. You can see that it's console logs out here in the terminal. And you can see this is what I wanted to show you also. They have these ingredients here, for example, and the measure. They are all in their own properties, and this is not really good to work with. So there's 15 of them. There's always going to be 15 of them. So I'm going to transform this data into something that's more easy for us to handle. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm just going to see what this error is. It's something in, it says it can't find this one. I guess it is because maybe, yeah, I have to return something here also, probably return. So we're going to return the props. This is how you pass in stuff to the props from this function. And we have the drink prop, and it's going to be the drink. So I do that and save it, go back. Yeah, and now it works. So I had to return something inside of that, otherwise it will throw an error. And you can see here also in the client console that we have the drinks here. And this is yet again that stuff that I told you that we're going to transform to something else now, because yeah, it's not good to work with when we're going to loop over these ingredients. So I don't want to return the data as this here. So now we're going to create the types, and we do that inside the SRC, outside of the routes. I create a new file that's called types.ts. And now we're going to specify our own data structure here. So export type, ingredient type is going to equal, we're going to have the name as a string, and we're also going to have the amount as a string. So we're going to fix this and put them in their own object instead. And then we're going to export a type of drink type like this. We have the name as a string. We have instructions as a string, and the ingredients is going to be that type that we created up above, ingredient type, and it's going to be an array. And we have the thumb URL, and it's going to be a string. This is the only data that we need from the API. So that's the types for that data. So if we go back inside of the endpoint, the index.json.ts file, we can restructure this data a little bit. I remove this console log. I can also say that you can also return a status for this one if it succeeded, or you can handle your arrows and stuff and return some arrow code. I won't do that in this tutorial. I don't want this to be too long because I want to focus on how you use endpoints and how you use basic TypeScript and how you set it up with Svelte. That's why. So I'm going to create a new const here now that's called ingredients with an S. And this one is going to be of the ingredient type. Okay, so we import it ourselves up here. That's the types that we created. Import type. In Svelte and in these modules, you have to specify that it's a type that you import. Otherwise, it won't recognize it as a type. So we have the drink type and we have the ingredient type from .. types. So that's the types that we're going to use. So the ingredients is going to be of the ingredient type. And I'm going to do a little special trick here now. I'm going to create an empty array. So I have an array, ... I spread out the array with a capital A, and it's going to be 15 elements because we know that it always returns 15 properties with the ingredients. So that's why I can do it like this. And from this one, I'm going to run a map. We have the value. We're not really going to use the value. We just need the index. You could use a for loop instead if you want to do that. So I mark this one with an underscore as we're not using the value. We're going to use the index value. That's the one that we use. And this one will return an object. And now we can restructure our data. We need the name. And from the result.drinks, it's in a property that's called drinks, even that it's only is one drink. So we can grab the first one. That's also very strange in the API. So we have the first elements. It's always going to contain the drink. And then we grab the property that's called str ingredient. And this is a template literal here. I use that in a computed property because I want to kind of use this index here now. And I have a template literal for that. So I can use JavaScript expressions inside of here. So I have the I, but we have to add +1 because it starts at 1 and not 0 as this one is going to do. So I +1, this will get us the string ingredient. And then we also want the amount of that ingredient. So from the result.drinks, The first element, we do the same. We have a template literal, and this one is called str measure. And we have a $, curly brackets, I+1. And this should hopefully transform the ingredients. But there can also be empty ones, I noticed. So we're going to filter this one also. Filter. We have the ingredient. And we're going to grab those that has a name. So ingredient.name. Like this. And hopefully this will work. So we can console log ingredients like this. And now it actually complains. Type, name, any, amount, any is missing the following properties from type, ingredient type. Okay, what did I do wrong here? Yeah, this one should be an array like this. And this will give the correct type. So save the file, go back, we rerun it and see if we have something. This one is going to be in the console. Oh, it's very far down. Somewhere. Yeah, and here we have it. We have the drinks here. So we restructure the data. So now we have an object for each ingredient, and we have the name and the amount. And this will be much easier to handle, as this is an array. So we can loop over the array and print out the name and the amount. Much, much easier. So this is also why it's cool to use the endpoints in Svelte. Because we can transform the data and create our own data structure here. And this one is not going to be any. It's going to be the drink type that we created. So it's going to return the drink type. And here, instead of returning the result on the body, we're going to actually return an object and structure this data as we want it. We have the name. It's going to be from the result.drinks. We grab the first element again, and we have the str drink. That's the name. Then we have the instructions. And that one is from the result drinks, first element, str instructions. Like this. And then we have the ingredients. It has the same name as the const I created up here, so we don't need to specify more than this. The thumb URL is going to be the result.drinks 0.str drink thumb. And this will make sure that it won't complain, because now we're providing it with the correct data structure from the type that we created. So our endpoint is fully working, and we can utilize this in our index component. We're first going to import our types again. Import. We actually only need a drink type from /types. So instead of any, this drink is going to be of the type drink type. We can remove this console log. Why is it complaining? Import. Yeah, you can see I forget to type in type, and it will complain if we don't do that. So we have to import it as a type, import type and the type name. Otherwise it won't work. And everything else here is fine. It's just working as it is. We have already created this. And we have our drink prop here in the other script tag. That's for the client. This drink state is also going to be of the type drink type. And the drink prop is also going to be of the type drink type. So we can use this data now. Hopefully we'll have it in this state that we call drink state. So instead of the drink name here, from the drink state dot, and you can see that we have this beautiful auto completion here, the IntelliSense. So that's pretty sweet. We want the name here in this one. And for the source to the image, we're going to have the drink state dot thumb URL. All right, then we have the instructions. We have the drink state dot instructions. I really love TypeScript. It's so great to have these ones already displayed for you to use. And then instead of this p tag here for the ingredients, we're going to loop through our ingredients. And in Svelte, we can loop with a hash sign and each. And from the drink state as ingredient, like that. So we have curly brackets, and then we end this each loop like this also. A little bit weird maybe if you haven't been using Svelte. And then we have a p tag with a class of ingredient. And then we have the ingredient itself, ingredient dot amount first. And then we have the ingredient dot name. Do some formatting. Yeah, drink state. Wasn't it called drink state? Why is it complaining? Yeah, it's not the drink state, it's the ingredients we're going to loop through. So dot ingredients. And hopefully this will work. So I save it, go back to the application. And here you can see we have everything in order here. It works. But this button don't work. So we have to fix that one also. So go back to the code and we have our handle on click. We can remove this console log. And instead of the console log, we're going to do an API call. And this one is client based. So we do the API call here in the client. Const result equal. We await and we await again. If you want to be more explicit, you can do this on its own row. And then you have a row where you convert it to JSON. So you don't have double awaits here. It's completely up to you. We're going to fetch from the index.json our endpoint. And we convert it with JSON like this. And then we set the drink state to the result. And this will update the state, hopefully. So this is all client-based now. We're not on the server as we were here. Go back, click the button. You can see that it works. I love when stuff works. And every time we click, we get a random drink. Cool. So that's the basic stuff of using endpoints with Svelte and also how you set up TypeScript and get that to work. Of course, there's a lot more to it with Svelte, but I wanted to show this one because it's pretty cool to get started with TypeScript and Svelte. And also these endpoints seems to be pretty cool. And it's actually not Svelte only, it's the Sveltekit it's called. So it's Sveltekit that has those endpoints, not Svelte itself. It's Sveltekit, very important. And Sveltekit is this framework that's based on Svelte that makes everything much easier for you to work with Svelte. So that's pretty cool. All right. So that's it for this video. See you in another one. And also, yeah, I almost forgot, if you like this stuff, please subscribe and hit that notification button and spread the word. I want this channel to grow big as I want to do this stuff more because I love to teach this stuff for you guys. All right. See you in another one.